Good to see everybody. We are obviously getting ready for Penn State here. Team that has really played well. Obviously, we know playing there. They played really well in the second half, and then obviously they're coming off a really good win over Wisconsin. So, athletic team, excellent guard play, but their interior guys are playing well right now, and good depth. So looking forward to the challenge. A group that plays a little bit different style, but like I said, playing well-coached group. So looking forward to the challenge.
When we talked to Roddy, he called this a must-win, kind of given what you guys have gone through. And do you like your players looking at a game in that way? Do you feel that way, or do you still sort of take the bigger picture mindset toward a game?
Well, I mean, I think you're really focused on playing well. That's really what you're focused on. So, I'll let Roddy speak for himself. He's, we're focused on playing well and doing some things. We did obviously some things well there to get that lead, but just doing some things better than what we did there last time we played them. That's our only focus right now is playing well.
How do they look different since you last played them, and how do you think you guys are different?
Yeah, they, I don't know that they look dramatically different. They're doing a few things different at them that, I would bore you with some of the X and O details of kind of what, yeah, okay. X and O details, they're doing some things different in terms of how they play. They're picking up down the floor, maybe a little bit more in terms of the percentage of overall possessions, but they're still really driven by their, dynamic backcourt, and kind of everybody plays through those guys, and they're outstanding. Those two guards, Baldwin and Clary.
Yes, just looking at some of the freshman contributions, obviously last year's freshman class had a lot more demanded on them with Bruce being the starting guard right away and all of that. But just have you gotten the level of contribution and have you seen the level of development you expected to get at this point from this freshman class? And what more do you maybe need to see?
Yeah, I think they've all had some good moments. I think, Austin, we didn't necessarily say this was going to be the year for him, so you kind of take him out of the big kids. He's playing behind two guys right now, but he's shown some really good glimpses in practice. I'm really, really excited about Austin. He just continues to get, better and better in practice, and, you're not going to see it a whole lot in games, but he's getting better and better. He's a big frame. He can shoot it. He's got good feel. He's a good vertical athlete. He's got to get better at ball screen coverage, but I'm really, really glad about his addition. Tayson's just been injured, but he's back and getting healthy. And Devon's, I think, getting better and better. And obviously Scotty's had some really good moments throughout the year.
Kind of diving into a couple of those guys a little bit more in detail. Just with Devon, I know obviously dealt with the illness recently. Did that set him back in any way? And I guess what more does he need to show to start getting some more minutes here?
I think just he's got to make some continue to grow defensively. I think that's the biggest challenge for him. He's played always on the interior defensively. Now he's playing out on the perimeter, and on the interior some. But he's working at it. But that's probably been the biggest challenge for him, is that, and then the normal speed of the game. But he's a terrific rebounder and done some really good things there.
Just wrapping up on Scotty, I guess kind of the same question there. What areas does he need to grow in, and then what have you seen that you've liked from him so far?
Yeah, he's done some good things on both ends, shot the ball well, and given us a lift on defense as well. So he's obviously been the one that's gotten the most consistent minutes of that group.
Chris, obviously we talked about the difficulty of closing games, but where do you think the team has gotten better since the Penn State game? As Roddy said, this was kind of a reference point, the Penn State game, with losing that lead, and you guys have kind of referred back to that game.
Where do I think we've gotten better? Yeah. I mean, the numbers would show we've gotten a little bit better rebounding defensively. We did not rebound it well against them, and some of that is just they put you in a lot of different situations, and their athleticism really got us. I think our ball handling is going to be really tested tomorrow. They turn you over more than any team in the Big Ten. They're 11th in the country in turnover percentage. That is as high as any really team we've played in the Big Ten in a number of years, their turnover rate. So it's going to be a significant part of the game. So I think we've improved a little bit there, but that's really going to get tested. But the numbers would show that we've improved a little bit there. We obviously are not shooting it as well as what we did at that point.
I know you guys have a lot of confidence in Dale, and he had one of his better games in that late stretch against Michigan. But what have you seen from him, maybe off the court, in terms of handling some of the early season struggles and trying to stay with it in the rotation?
Yeah, no, I just talked to Dale. He's in a good place. He's just got to keep working, keep putting good days together, and keep trusting in his work and his skill set. He's got a good attitude and a good approach, and we were going to really need him, this second half of the season. You really do need another guard. It's really important for us to have another guard, and I'm excited about him and Taysom both kind of growing here, hopefully into a role that can really help our backcourt.
How do you see the guys handling this stretch? I mean, after the Michigan game, they were asked about you as a coach and your job. You've obviously been talked about the losing streak and not letting it be last year. I mean, just how are they mentally? I know you've been through this plenty of times and you know how to do it, but especially with some of the younger guys, how do they handle this? How have you seen it?
Yeah, they're kids, so they're pretty resilient. Yeah, they're pretty resilient, but they also, they take losses hard. Again, I think when you're a college player too, and it's part of our job, is they have a little bit of a different perspective too. When you look at some of the best teams we played this year, you look at Clemson, a team we scrimmaged. You look at their league record right now. They're a good team. A&M, good team. Look at their league record right now. So, you can be in a little bit of a silo if you don't necessarily follow college basketball. So I think there's a perspective required. But yeah, they're resilient, but at the same time, this group, as you'd want, takes losses hard. And it's our job as coaches to get them focused on what really matters, and that is putting in good work, problem solving, and getting better.
Roddy was very clear that when the shot's not falling, he needs to be doing other things. And I asked him about how difficult that is in comparison to other stretches he's had, high school, where I assume you can just bully your way to the basket and things. How have you seen him work on that area of his game, and where has he improved in that aspect?
Well, I thought he did a better job last game of just playing to his strengths. Now, he's always going to shoot threes because he's a very capable shooter. But I thought he did a better job last game of really playing to his strengths. And but I think his ball screen defense could have been better last game. So those are the things where you're saying, okay, he can't ever just be defined by his shooting, because that's never been the player that he's been. He's got to be able to take care of the ball better. He's got to be able to be a better playmaker for us. But I really did think he played to his strengths better against in the Michigan game.
When you play a team that leads the conference in turnover margin, how do you fight that beyond, hey, we need to make sure we don't turn the ball over?
Yeah, you just remind them where they're getting some of those turnovers, how some of those are coming, and what we're going to have some turnovers tomorrow. I think what you're trying to do is limit the ones that are within our control. They are terrific with their hands. I mean, they added the A-10 player of the year, who was the steals leader and assist leader, and it's translated. He's clearly got the ability to, guys will tell you that in high school when you recruit a kid, or what typically not everything translates. Free throw rate often translates. Rebounding translates. Block shots and steal rate typically translates from a level like, say, a mid-major to a high major. And those things have translated for sure. So we're going to have to figure out ways to mitigate it some. We're going to have some turnovers, but we're going to, we're showing them where they come from.
Obviously, when you're in the midst of a 3-game stretch that hasn't gone your way, can kind of get out of hand mentally sometimes when you start searching for wins. How do you tell these guys to just focus on one game at a time as opposed to looking at the schedule and saying, we've got to find a win somewhere? Yeah,
I think that's the biggest challenge for kids, for coaches, is to really stay present and stay in the moment. I think that's the biggest challenge for anybody in athletics, that where you're trying to do something, you're in the midst of a difficult challenge, is just to stay present and stay focused on the task at hand and be really disciplined with your mind on, what you can do to win whatever moment is right in front of you. It's a real mental discipline, and it's hard to do because your mind can go places that just don't end up putting you in the best position to be your best. So there's a discipline to it, and what you typically find is the guys who are older and have been through it are typically better at handling it. But this group, I think, will respond. But that's the challenge. We're playing a good team tomorrow. We just have to focus on staying in the moment and doing our very best in that moment.
It's interesting to hear Roddy call the Penn State game a necessary game when you guys lost, and saying that these learned from that. How do you take these losses and try to spin them into something, knowing March is the ultimate goal here?
Oh, I think you're always looking, at progress, and you're always looking at games as a real lesson learned, wins and losses. So, that's always been our mantra, and it always will be. There is a real appreciation for challenging moments if they're something you can take something from and use down the road.
One of the analysts who watched your team play here in recent games with the offense has kind of stagnated a little bit, made the observation that the ball rarely goes into the post in the half-court offense, and how that can help change things a little bit defensively. If the other team's on a run, put it in there. Maybe you get a three-point play and kind of calms everything down, or reverse the ball or whatever. Felix, it just feels like if he scores, it's on offensive rebound or a lob. Is this something that you guys could possibly embrace the rest of the season? I know it's hard to put that in at mid-season, but is there anything that you can do to involve those guys a little bit more?
Yeah, I don't know if it's hard to do that, Steve. And we've looked at it, maybe to create a little bit more balance within our offense. We have looked at it in kind of recent weeks there. Our efficiency hasn't been great on post-ups right now, and I think that's where we have to get better. We just have to have better efficiency in some of our post-up situations. One of the things I do think we've done a very good job, Felix has really grown in his ability to not just catch lobs and finishes, but catch lobs where maybe the fifth defender's come over and X'd out and walled him up, and he's been able to make a play over a body with touch. And I think that's been a real positive and a real strength for him. But, it's something we've looked at to maybe create a little bit more balance, to create an opportunity where we could potentially get to the foul line. I'm assuming whoever this analyst was talking more about
One of your former players
father.
who's really verbose, Indiana.
Dan. Yeah. I think the reality is there's probably something to that. But we do post other guys. It's not always our five is what my point was.
The games you've lost, you've been right there with 5-7 minutes to go, tied, a little bit of a lead, whatever it was, and you've gutted some games out too. But those all no one has blown you out, so to speak. Just what is it going to take to finish a few more of those really tight, close games that you have every right to win as the other team does?
No doubt. Better execution and finishing plays defensively would be number one across the board. Rebounding. It's a little bit too simple to say shot making, but I think there's something to that, Steve. I do think it does come down to we need to make some of those shots that are right there, some of those plays that are right in front of us to make. And then the third thing is I think we got to find a way to get to the free throw line a little bit more late than what we've done. Any other questions, guys?
Roddy said it feels like there's a sixth guy on the court with you when you're playing here. How important is tomorrow's game, specifically with the home court advantage, with the recent struggles on the road?
Oh, we had a fantastic crowd last home game, and I've said this, we've been dying to have weekend home games. It's just last year we I don't think we had hardly any, maybe one. So to be able to have some weekend home games here is great. We had a fantastic crowd against Wisconsin. We need a loud and energized crowd tomorrow for a Saturday noon tip. And, we're excited to play in front of our crowd and obviously our students again.
Too bad they couldn't give you 8 p.m. instead of noon. But
Yeah.
looking at the lineups in that Michigan game, and when you put together that run, the three guys who were consistent on the court, you had your bigs and you had Dale.
Yeah.
And those aren't combinations that have maybe given you a ton of success at this point. Was that a matchup situation where you saw something in how Michigan was playing that you thought that would work, or is that something that is replicable going forward? Maybe not a 16-0 run, but getting those guys playing.
Yeah. It was more matchup driven, Adam. I think overall it was more matchup driven. Might be a little bit harder to play that against these guys tomorrow because at times there's going to be 5 3-point shooters or at least 4 out on the floor, and they spread you out. But we thought that there were going to be times where we could play that. We'll continue to play that lineup some. I think we did a good job with our ball screen coverage in that. We've got to continue to work on that. I think we need to continue to create opportunities for space offensively. And sometimes when you're playing two bigs, you don't have that as much. So I think that's what we're looking at as well. All right, guys.